Hello and thanks for joining me today. Today I'm going to talk to you about a major announcement that we're going to be making on September 15th, which will impact over 300 of our processing facilities nationwide. I feel it's important for you to know why we are doing this first before announcing anything to the mailing community and to the public. You may recall from the last video I touched on network logistics and the need to make adjustments based on mail volume today and mail volume projected for the future. I also said I would talk to you about proposals around the Postal Service looking to manage its healthcare and retirement systems, but given the scope of this announcement, I'm going to hold the discussion for healthcare and retirement to the next time that we talk. So here's the question: why change the network? The last time that I talked to you about the fact that we're seeing a very steep decline in first-class mail, and that's driving some of the proposed changes that we're going to have to make in service standards and some of the changes that we have to make in the logistics network. And I've said this over and over again, first-class mail pays the bills. It's the engine that runs the organization and drives our network requirements. And this piece of the business has been suffering, as you well know, with substantial declines. That has had a dramatic effect on what we do in the plants every night in terms of outgoing mail. Combining that loss of first-class mail with some of our legislative mandates, such as pre-funding retiree health benefits, that puts tremendous pressure on our finances. We've continued to reduce costs, and you've done a tremendous job from a productivity standpoint. And I try to make sure that every time I'm in front of either Congress or the television, I'm giving credit because you guys have done a great job with what we've been doing. But I will tell you this, the cost reductions at the pace that we've seen will not be enough going forward. Even in a perfect world, in a world where legislative requirements were handled, adjusted to fix the pre-funding, we were able to get the 6 to 5 day change in and get the $6.9 billion overpayment back from FERS. Long term, our financial problems are not going to go away. So we've got to do more, we've got to do things faster. And despite what you've heard, that the Postal Service is owed up to $125 billion from various overfunding of retirement systems, it is highly unlikely that we'll get much, if any, of that money back. It would be a disservice for me to stand here and say, don't worry, that's what I'm going to focus on, that's going to happen. And I'm not going to risk your future and the future of the organization on some possibility that I don't think is going to happen. You know, we're all faced with a new reality. We are no longer a growth business that will continue to see volumes of mail that we saw at one time. We're not going to see mail volumes come back to the levels that we saw in the past. You know, new plants, post offices, expanding transportation and delivery networks, that all happened while the volume is growing. But as volume has declined dramatically, 43 billion pieces in the last 5 years, our networks are just too big and too costly to support these kind of declining volumes. So for the first time in history, we really need to reduce the capacity of our networks across the board. So from an employee perspective, what changes will we all see? Number one, reducing the number of processing facilities from the current total of about 500 to fewer than 200 is what's going to happen. And that's going to allow us to reduce the capacity, reduce the operating costs, and we're also going to have to change some of our service standards to get to that point. We believe ultimately it's going to save us about $3 billion a year and support projected mail volumes over the next 10 years. As I mentioned, you know, proposed changes to service standards, and this is an adjustment for customers and for you as an organization as a whole, that they're going to have to occur. And many of you understand that over the years that we've built the networks around our ability to deliver overnight mail and first class and periodicals, and the changes that we're considering will modify and move first-class mail predominantly to a 2 to 3 day standard. We will still have some opportunity for overnight mail. It's mainly going to be commercial mail that customers bring in before noon on a daily basis. Priority mail, express mail, standard, the areas where we have growth, the service standards will remain the same. And as a matter of fact, with some of the package business, we look to even improve our service standards and reduce time going forward. And then some of the other classes of mail, the much smaller classes, we'll have to see what changes need to be made on those going forward. The proposed network changes will allow us to radically change how we process mail. You know, when we implement these changes, we're going to substantially increase the utilization of the remaining plants and the equipment. We'll continue to follow the area mail processing process and studying facilities for consolidation or closure. And the facility by facility studies, the public input, and the PRC process is going to take some time, but consolidations and closures could begin as early as March of 2012. When the process is completed and all facilities have been studied and actions ready to be taken, it could impact as many as 30 to 35,000 career people. As part of this plan, we'll follow all the requirements of the collective bargaining agreements and any other requirements of the law. So what's next? We've notified Congress of the need to reduce the network and change some of our service standards. And we're going to be seeking an advisory opinion in October from the Regulatory Commission on service standard changes that we're proposing. Depending on where you're viewing this, September 15th is the date that we're going to be holding a news conference in Washington, D.C., announcing our intentions to the public and the mailing community. We'll also publish a list of facilities that we're looking to study for possible consolidation or closure. Your manager or supervisor will let you know if your current facility has been identified. It may seem to you after hearing this news that our future doesn't seem bright, and I understand that. But also understand that if mail is going to be strong and have an important role going into the future, we have to shore up our foundation now and make these difficult but necessary changes. It's all part of a long-term strategy that we've been discussing over the past few months, and that includes legislative changes, retail changes, and now network and transportation changes. We've got to do all these things to get back on the path to profitability. I know that I can count on each of you to work with me on this, and as always, thanks for doing the great job that you do, and I'll see you next time.